Good morning. This is the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charleston. My name is Paul Dalzell, and I am the worship coordinator here. I welcome all of you, our members, our friends, and if this is your first time here, we welcome you and thank you for joining us today. If you are new to UUC, I am sure you'll find us an open, accepting congregation. We are guided by the 7 principles that you see around you and 6 values: justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. I found it funny, JETPIG is the easy mnemonic device to remember what those are. We are the place. As Jack Hickok once said to me, if you don't feel you fit in anywhere else, you belong here. As Unitarian Universalists, we draw from our heritage of freedom, reason, hope, courage, and building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. When we gather to worship in this place, we shape what is of worth to us. To gather in community, to sit together, to sing, to listen, and to find respite from the outside world for an hour. Please know, we welcome you, whoever you are. Now, please join us in singing our welcome song together, and if you feel comfortable doing so, greet those around you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Wherever you are, we welcome you. Where you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Let's take a moment to thank our tech team, Paul and Jaden, our greeter, Deborah Beatty, who filled in at the last moment, Gene, our usher, I guess as long as he stays, he may be heading out here in a minute. Yeah, question mark. Nursery adult, Meredith Summers, and especially our music coordinator, Jamie Edwards, and the UUC music makers for all the work they do to make Sundays happen. And a big thank you, as always, to our congregational administrator, Sarah Stone, for her patience and talent in organizing these facilities, keeping us informed, and keeping this collection of counterculture congregants operating. Today's opening words are, "It's Good to Be Together" by Allison Wohler. With thankful hearts, we have come together this morning to celebrate the bounty of the day, to bask in the warmth of this community, to share with friends the tides of our lives, to entertain perennially our hopes for a better future. We join together this morning, as always, to resist injustice and inequity wherever they may be found. Our hearts are touched by the human need we feel around us, whether far away or within reach of our hand. We come here to be together because this is how we believe our lives are best lived: in questioning and in conversation, in compassion and in service, in gratitude and in joy, in companionship and in love. It is good to be together with you this morning. Let's raise our voices in song. Please rise in body or spirit if you are able. Hymn 121, We'll Build a Land.
Verses 1 and 2.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
As Ken lights our chalice, please join me in reading the words in your order of service. We call this light before us in hope that we may always remain a strong community, working well together to make the world a better place. When we are grieving or sad, when we are challenged, when we need help, this flame guides us out of the darkness. When we are cheerful, when we celebrate, when we accomplish a great task, when we return to a place that makes us happy, the chalice reminds us to share our happiness with others. And sticking with my song for all ages rather than a story for all ages, we have a video. This is Carsey Blanton. Be good. expletive fascism. Carsey sent it to me, so. We gather together in worship, whether in person or virtually, to connect with the greater good, to do good and to be better. Part of that is sharing our joys, our celebrations, our sorrows, our concerns, our peace, our help, and our needs. Joys for today. Got to visit my friend Katie when she came in from Brooklyn to go tubing and had a job interview from Mary. Elliot Hicks spoke on the Supreme Court and related issues at discussion group. Always good to hear him. The film Thelma is showing at the Flora Lee Hart Cohen Center Cinema. Aging folks will especially enjoy it. I don't know any of those. Great walk on Devil's Tea Table Trail in Little Creek Park on Thursday with Spiral Moon Grove. That's great. And an amazing drum circle last evening at Country Roads Pet Spa. Bill W. is always an amazing host. Concerns and sorrows. Sorrows for the loss of Linda Koval this week, my best friend, said Pam. And Mary says her phone is not working. The LCD screen gave up the ghost again. No internet. Call Tristan if you need us. Also, Marie mentioned a Jennifer Prater who needs our best thoughts and wishes, living on the street and going through a really hard time right now. And final concern was the RNC convention. I get that. Let's take a moment to sit and breathe, to meditate, to ponder, to pray if you wish, but most of all, to be at peace. The offering we take each Sunday is an opportunity to recommit to this place and to these people. It is as much a ritual as singing together, lighting our chalice, or reciting our unison affirmation. It is a reminder of that form of love we call generosity. It is how we show that we believe it is important to worship together, to help our community, and to say yes to the values of our faith. Please join me in reading our unison affirmation. The words are in your order of service. Love is the spirit of our faith, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Dictionary.com describes generosity as the spirit and action of freely and frequently giving to others. It also says generosity can also refer to an overall spirit of kindness, but this is less common. Unfortunately, my go-to, the Merriam-Webster dictionary, because Mom used it, uses the word in the definition, as does the Oxford Dictionary, which I was taught was a big no-no. It says the quality or fact of being generous or a generous act. Now, I don't know that cultivating a spirit of gratitude and hope is what generosity means either. This seems at first glance to be a stretch to me. Being grateful and having hope may or may not mean being generous. I am and have been grateful when others were generous to me, many, many times. It does most certainly give me hope when that happens. All too often, it has been the difference between success and failure, or even what at least feels like life or death to me. I'm also grateful when people allow me to help them. As the Dalai Lama said, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. It feels good to do good. That isn't why we do it, but it is true in an almost selfish way. Can practicing compassion be a selfish act? Sure. Some have described compassion as selflessness with a selfish purpose. My friend, Mary Beth Beller, said, generosity is the external demonstration of gratitude, meaning that if one is grateful for the generosity one has been shown, then one passes it on by being generous to others. You all know what generosity is. You all live it. As Annette Mayer said, when describing UUers, people show up to help. It just happens. Or, as our former minister, Kayla Parker, said in one of her sermons about us at the UU Fellowship in Winston-Salem, when I visited the people of West Virginia, I saw and experienced that they were a people who were incredibly adept at caring for one another. They knew how to take care of one another, for so many other people did not really know they even existed. They took care of one another because no one else would. And I said, I need to be taught how to be a minister by these people who already know so deeply, to their very bones and souls, how to do life-saving, caring ministry. Now, that is an outsider's take on West Virginians. To us, those who grew up here, it's just how it is. If you have something someone else needs badly, you help them out. If you need something, you can pretty much be sure it will appear. She was 100% right about they took care of one another because no one else would, part two. We know we can't expect help from outside of Appalachia, except in very rare cases. Look at the aftermath of every flood in this state. First, the neighbors pitch in, some of whom have lost their own homes and belongings. Then the community helps out with food and supplies and more. And then, years later, FEMA may or may not come through with some money. Here at UUC, I have watched this reality. Just as Nettie said, people show up to help. It just happens. I've watched it myself over the years. Helping out is what we do. Our problem is often more the opposite of not finding folks to help, but rather having to ask them to step back so they don't burn out. I have seen people volunteer until they have to quit for their own sanity. I myself felt the need to step away for a couple of years. And I have forced myself to not take on too much since I returned. So back to the shared value. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. Isn't really about generosity, but we know about being generous. It's who we are. But being grateful and hopeful is something we can and should cultivate. Note also that this shared value does not say to give away all your earthly possessions. Okay, that's the first line of the shared value. Now, the covenant. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. While meeting with our own Stone Action Group earlier this week, we discussed attending SOAR's monthly mutual aid meeting Wednesday, and how just being there helping out while wearing our UU t-shirts was important. It wasn't so much what we did there, but that we were there flying our UUC colors. Sharing our faith and presence was what mattered. The resources are our time and willingness to pitch in when needed. At the monthly mutual aid meeting, I witnessed generosity. A community working with a community to help provide some relief from the trials of life on the streets. First, I saw a lot of people helping. There were 131 participants and about 55 providers and volunteers for a total of 186-ish gathered community members. During the winter months, we had over 200 participants several times, attendance does shrink in the hot months. A group of young women from the Islamic Center serve food for all. Some of the services provided were bike repair, a seamstress, a medical team providing wound care, the Women's Health Center and Planned Parenthood providing reproductive health goods, Plan B, condoms and such. And the SOAR booth had various harm control goods. There were free clothes, free legal aid, free cooling aids, and much, much more. But not all the helpers were vendors. Several participants were being helpful to their fellow participants in many ways. The community of houseless folk are a tight-knit community themselves, as is the West Virginia Way. People bringing mobility-challenged folk sandwiches, helping them get in and out of the doors, those with very little sharing with those with less. It was and always is a beautiful model of how to be a community. Now, as I do when writing these sermons, I researched what is generosity. The University of Notre Dame College of Arts and Letters has a department of the science of generosity called Exploring an Essential Human Virtue, and an initiative titled What is Generosity? Isn't that cool? In the article, it says that the modern English word generosity derives from the Latin word generosus, which means of noble birth, which itself was passed down to English through the Old French généreux. Most recorded English uses of the word generous up to and during the 16th century reflect an aristocratic sense of being of noble lineage or high birth. To be generous was literally a way of saying to belong to nobility. During the 17th century, the meaning and use of the word began to change. Generosity came to increasingly identify not literal family heritage, but a nobility of spirit thought to be associated with high birth. That is, with various admirable qualities that could now vary from person to person, depending not on family history, but on whether a person actually possessed the qualities of gallantry, courage, strength, richness, gentleness, and fairness. Then during the 18th century, the meaning of generosity continued to evolve in directions denoting the more specific contemporary meaning of munificence, open-handedness, and liberality in the giving of money and possessions to others. By the way, I had to look up munificence. It is a noun. It means liberality in bestowing gifts, extremely liberal and generous of spirit. I love it. The article goes on to say, this more specific meaning came to dominate English usage by the 19th century. Over the past 5 centuries in the English-speaking world, generosity developed from being primarily the description of an ascribed status pertaining to the elite nobility to being an achieved mark of admirable personal quality and action capable of being exercised in theory by any person who had learned virtue and noble character. Generosity has not long been viewed as a normal trait of ordinary or of all people, but rather one expected to be practiced by those of higher quality or greater goodness. Generosity, unlike, say, truth-telling or not stealing, is more an ideal toward which the best can aspire and achieve than a democratic obligation that is the duty for all to practice. Generosity may thus, on the positive side, properly call any given person to a higher standard, yet simultaneously, this two-tiered understanding may have the effect of excusing the majority from practicing generosity because of their more ordinary perceived status. I wonder at this past the deadline stage if, given its elite past meaning, we should have used my new favorite word, munificence, instead of generosity. Now, in Buddhism, generosity is one of the 6 far-reaching attitudes, the 6 perfections, or 6 paramitas. The 4 types of generosity in Buddhism are giving material aid, giving teachings and advice, providing protection from fear, giving love. Now, freely and compassionately sharing our faith, presence, and resources is pretty close to this Buddhist practice then, isn't it? This takes us back to the shared value of pluralism, right? With a healthy dose of equity and interdependence thrown in too, especially with love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. I admit to having been a little resistant to the, adoption of the new shared values at first. But as I read and write and talk about them, I'm starting to love them. They're just all connected. They go very well together. Now, in the perfection of generosity, I'm going to butcher this, Danaparamita, Buddhist Dr. Alexander Berzin said, generosity is an attitude where we are willing to give away whatever is needed by others. It doesn't really mean that we have to give absolutely everything away and become dirt poor ourselves, as if poverty in itself was a virtue, as is found in some religions. Here, generosity means that we are willing to give without hesitation and without obstacles. And when it's appropriate to give, which requires us to use discrimination. He goes on to say, the first type of generosity, the generosity of giving material aid, refers to our possessions, food, clothing, money, and anything else we might have. It includes a sense of giving when it is appropriate to give, and giving in a respectful manner. The generosity of giving teaching and advice is not just about teaching, translating, transcribing, publishing, or creating and working in education centers, but also entails answering people's questions, giving them advice and information if and when we can, and so on. The generosity of giving protection from fear refers to helping other beings when they are in a bad state, including comforting others when they're frightened, whether it's our children, or perhaps an animal that's being hunted, or someone that's being bullied. And to give our equanimity to others. This means that others have absolutely nothing to fear from us, because we're not going to cling to them with attachment, reject them with anger and hostility, or ignore them with naivety. Rather, that we are equally open to everybody, which is a really wonderful gift to give to anyone. The Buddhist generosity, called the giving of love, is not where we go around hugging everybody, but where we give everybody our wish for them to be happy. This is the definition of love, the wish for another person to be happy and have the causes of happiness. So, with love at the center of our shared values, let us cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. And let's also covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, our presence, and our resources. Because our generosity connects us to one another through interdependence and mutuality. Thank you. Let's sing again. I invite you to rise in voice, body, or spirit for our closing hymn, number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Our closing words today are In the End It Won't Matter by John C. Morgan. In the end, it won't matter how much we have, but how generously we have given. It won't matter how much we know, but rather how well we live. And it won't matter how much we believe, but how deeply we love. Let's sing our recessional together. Wait for the bongs.